Hello, welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Smash the like button if you love me. Subscribe if you're new. Please have your say. A very warm welcome to this outside edition, very special outside edition of Sunday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. Yes, I had this weird idea. Let's do a video. Let's do today's show outside. So this is where I live out here in Iron Apple, Cyprus, and I'm sitting on the kitchen patio today, and this is where I'm having my breakfast. It's summer, so it's nice out, and I thought we'd do an episode outside for this once. But we are going to talk DC, of course, and we're gonna give you the usual updates, and I'm gonna react to these updates. So Warner Brothers Pictures, in their genius, have decided to start promoting Justice League to help promote the Flash movie. I don't understand. Justice League is the most embarrassing, lowest moments in the company's proud history. Why would you insist in constantly promoting that movie and reminding people of the worst moment in the studio's history? I mean, no one can think that's a good episode in the studio's history. Wouldn't you rather try and move away from that? People are kind of forgetting about it, right? You've got a big, epic Flash movie that some people are going to say bad things about. People are going to say bad things about Ezra. We understand the movie is thoroughly entertaining. The motivations of making the movie are kind of toxic, the kind of same motivations of making Justice League. But at the end of the day, it is an entertaining movie, and the people who made it are not to blame. Andy Muschietti, the people who wrote the movie, Christina Hodson, and the other guy who wrote it with her. Look, we know Ezra Miller's done this, that, and the other. But a lot of hard work's gone into this movie, and if you want to go and see it and you've enjoyed the movie, I say good luck to you. And don't let anyone, spoil your enjoyment of that. But using Justice League, the biggest betrayals of a creator in any studio's history. I mean, look, these studios betray their creatives all the time. But to want to remind people of Justice League is beyond me, everyone. I really don't understand why they're promoting this movie. And they got the tagline that the Flash may be the fastest man alive, but and then they start promoting Superman, which is really weird in itself because Superman isn't really in the movie unless they've stuck him in the theatrical cut somehow, which I haven't seen yet. But ultimately, from what I know, is we see a little TV thing of the news of him stopping a volcano erupting or helping as it erupts or whatever, and it's another faceless Cavill Superman cameo. And what's the irony of this? I think yesterday was the 10th anniversary exactly of Man of Steel. Next weekend, the Flash movie will be released a week after the 10th anniversary of Man of Steel. The Flash movie should be a celebration of all things DCEU, but it omits its most important incumbent, and it's Henry Cavill's Superman, who was the introduction of this DCEU. No matter what you think of the DCEU, whether it's the Snyderverse or, the Johnson Bergverse or the Hamadaverse, whatever you think of any of it, and it's been people of many hands and many visions have been involved with the DCEU. I mean, using the term, vision very, very loosely, of course, but if you like that, that's your right. And good luck to you. If you like portions of the DCEU, but this is not really how you celebrate, the 10th anniversary of Man of Steel. And I do believe that the 10th anniversary of Man of Steel deserves promotion at the end of the day, because I personally think it's a great movie, warts and all, flaws and all, because everything made by human hands, as I keep on saying, is flawed. Nothing, even your favorite movie ever, is flawed. And people are always going to pick flaws because that's what people do. People pick flaws in other works of art and in other people so they can distract from their own flaws. And if we just accept that everything we do is flawed and all of us are flawed, we would be more happier. There will be less battles in the world and less wars in the world. But unfortunately, that's not how the human condition works. But going back to them promoting Justice League, I mean, look, these are not smart people. As I say, it's proof that the people who greenlit Justice League, who betrayed Zack Snyder, are still there in the background. Even though the studio is under new leadership now, they merged with Discovery. It's now Warner Brothers Discovery. David Zaslav, the former CEO of Discovery, is now the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery. But beneath him, surely there's still people going there. You know, people there that were there before. But who runs Warner Brothers Pictures now? Well, it's Adby and DeLuca, Pam Adby and Mike DeLuca, two very, very good people. They've got a lot of respect from the industry at large and the fans. I can't believe that Mike and Pam had anything to do with this. I think Mike and Pam have been fighting the good fight to keep the DCEU going. That fight has failed. But I think one of the most exposing thing I heard this week, that some executives at Warner Brothers were apparently shocked when they heard some elements of the studio say that the Flash movie is the best superhero movie of all time. We know that Zaslav said that the Flash movie is the best superhero movie he's ever seen. But this is the depth of their desperation to get you to go and see this movie. So next Thursday, Friday, I will be going to see this theatrical cut for the first time. You're all very well aware that I saw the test screening of the Flash movie many moons ago, and I've tried to give you my feedback without giving out too many spoilers. We have spoke about spoilers that are out there on the internet. I've given you spoiler warnings. Even though I haven't seen the theatrical cut, I do know what the ending of this movie is. But we're not going to give that away here on Movies TV Mad, because I think that's right. And I think you, as you know, random viewers or subscribers, and if you are a random viewer and you at least like the view, you should definitely subscribe and like the video. But comment. If you want to help the channel, comment, because that really does help in the algorithm as well. We're not a very successful channel here on Movies TV Mad. I do have big ambitions for the channel. I want to really bring more presenters on. I want these other presenters, to talk about other movies in the history of film and their favorite TV shows. And I want to do videos about the 80s TV, like Knight Rider, The A-Team. I want to talk about the V mini-series. I want to talk about Lost. I want to talk more about 24, Quantum Leap. I talk about Doctor Who. Rarely. I don't think I've done a video in a few weeks now for Doctor Who, and there's still a lot of things I haven't even spoken about that's happening in the Doctor Who universe. So I really want to expand this channel, and I will expand this channel whether it's successful or not, because this channel, social media, for me is a very cathartic experience. Because right now, my job, which I don't actually get paid for, is that I work for an amateur dramatics theatre. I basically founded an empty theatre here in Ayia Napa. We put some money into it, and I write, produce, perform, and direct, and and act in my own plays. And it's, people come in, they pay, a little paltry sum so we can keep the building going, and we try and donate to charity and help the community at large here in Cyprus as well. So that's kind of my job. I'm a writer, I'm a director, and I'm an actor. I'm also writing an unofficial sequel to the Lost TV series called Trapped. If you're interested in knowing more, I'll briefly tell you about that, because we're supposed to be talking about DC. But Trapped is an unofficial sequel to Lost. I want to bring Aaron back to the Lost universe, who's Claire's son. I want to bring Sun and Jin's child, who obviously will be a lot older now, into that world. And Trapped is about the town of Redford. And what happens is it's a historical town. People come and visit it. All of a sudden, these mysterious metal looking walls block the exits and entrances of the town, and they're trapped in this historical town. It has connections to Dharma, it has connections to Lost, it has connections to the previous characters of Lost. And that is what I'm looking to do with my unofficial Lost sequel. When I've completed kind of an idea for that, a complete idea for it, I will pitch it as well. So very exciting times for me. I'm a very creative person. I do love the sound of my own voice, and I know many people on the internet don't. I'm a very direct person. I'm a straight shooter. But also, if I say something one day, but then I think about it and say that was a shit opinion, Mick, I've changed my mind now. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind. Consistency are just the ramblings of a stubborn person who's not willing to say, do you know what, I'm going to take a step back here. I'm going to have an open mind. Like I'm doing with Superman Legacy, where I was all fire and brimstone when they removed Henry Cavill, but then I thought about it. This is a big opportunity. I am a Superman fan. Let's see what James Gunn can do. And if I don't like what James Gunn has done, I will say I don't like it. And if I do like it, without any bias towards the decisions and the calamity around WB, I will be honest about my opinions. I think biased is a very dangerous thing. I think biased is good, and we used to be a bit more of an echo chamber here on Movies TV Mad as well, didn't we? You know, we were very, very pro Snyderverse, which I still am, by the way. This channel is very pro Snyderverse. And moving away from Justice League, and I do want to read some comments from Michael Shannon about his lack of enjoyment and empathy for the Flash movie. The guy's ruthless. I have to say his support for Zack Snyder is brilliant, but some of the shit he's saying about the Flash movie, very brief words, are very, very interesting. But I do have an update for you for the Schumacher cut, which is there is a campaign now to release the Schumacher cut here on Movies TV Mad, and the daily DC Universe show will be pushing that and promoting that. We support it. It's now trending over on Twitter, which of course is really good news. Now, I've heard more about what Kevin Smith's had to say. He's got a copy of it. He's seen it. Now, if you recall, if you've seen Batman Forever, the opening is like this big action sequence, right? Well, according to Kevin Smith, prior to that, the first 10 minutes, you don't see that opening action set piece from the theatrical cut for 10 minutes. There's other stuff going on. He also says it's a very long movie. There's lots of new sequences in it. Obviously, Smith is connected to the industry. He directed many episodes of Arrowverse as well. He got involved in that. He's very, very connected. Although I have a big disdain how he sold out in terms of Masters of the Universe on Netflix, I think we can all be friends again if he's helping to get, this director's vision out there. And I think he was talking about this on his Fat Man on Batman YouTube show. Now, he's going to do something, he said, and he's talking about actually watching it as well. I don't know if he's talking about he said you can't watch it live on the internet, but I don't know what he was talking about. But who knows? Maybe I don't think he would leak it, but yeah, at the moment, Kevin Smith is a very good place if you want to see the Schumacher cut. He's a really good person to be supporting right now. Probably that's part of the reason he's doing it. But whatever the reason, he's got a lot of followers, he's got a lot of fans, he's got a lot of supporters, and I support him attempting to release the Schumacher cut. Now, Warner Brothers, like all these studios, are in big trouble. So I think it won't take much for them to release this movie. Who knows? They may even give it a theatrical release, which would be a very exciting event. So let's take a look at what Michael Shannon's had to say. Michael Shannon says playing Zod in The Flash wasn't quite satisfying for me as an actor. These multiverse movies are like somebody playing with action figures. It's not quite the in-depth character study situation I felt of Man of Steel was. Now, this is very, very interesting because normally when actors are promoting a movie, listen, this is not the way you normally promote a movie. I'm going to have one of my conspiracy theories that people don't like me having. I think he was contractually obligated to be in this movie. I don't think he wanted to be in this movie, even though he's been very complimentary about Andy Machete, and he's saying that the way Zack Snyder was treated by WB was disgusting. So we know what side of the fence he's on. I think he had to be in the Flash movie, as I say, contractual obligations. And I think now he's getting his revenge. He's being honest. He's a very honest guy. He's always been a very honest guy, and Michael has always been very supportive of Man of Steel, because you're saying, what do you mean? What character study? Well, General Zod is a character study of dictators that we hear about. You know, people like Bin Laden, Saddam Hussein, you know, they all had to start somewhere. And this is where Zod's coming from. He becomes this dictator that we see in the real world, but he starts off as the hero of his planet. And he becomes this villain when his world is mismanaged by a political, corrupt council who basically abandon exploration. And he takes it upon himself to save his race by invading the Earth, killing. He wants to kill humanity. He wants to create a different environment that Kryptonians can live in. So so basically, he wants to replace human beings with Kryptonians. What's very interesting is, and the film doesn't really cover this, and as it's, you know, the 10th anniversary of Man of Steel, we should discuss Man of Steel. Superman can live on Earth as a Kryptonian with his powers. So why does he need the world engine to make it possible, you know, make it poisonous to humanity? But basically, if you change the environment of Earth, that surely means the Kryptonians wouldn't have superpowers. So basically, it seems a bit vindictive to bring in the world engine just to change the environment. Why is he turning Earth into Krypton? Is it nostalgia and he actually wants to recreate Krypton? Maybe. It's not really explained in the movie. Does he not want his people to have powers? And I'm not sure if they would have powers or not, because it is the sun that gives the Kryptonians their powers. So I'm not sure what happens to the sun once the world engine changes that environment. But it is interesting anyway. But it's obviously a very, very cruel thing as well. He wants to kill humanity. He doesn't want to share the planet with humanity. So this is a good guy who becomes a vicious dictator. Because as I say, everyone starts from somewhere. Bin Laden started from somewhere. Saddam Hussein, you know, started from somewhere. Colonel Gaddafi. And this is literally who General Zod is, played by Michael Shannon in Man of Steel. So Michael's right. It's a very interesting character study written by two intelligent writers, Christopher Nolan and David Goyer. The story's penned by them. The screenplay is penned by David Goyer. And what you do, you get premium shit by writers like this. This is why we got premium shit, you know, in the Dark Knight trilogy. When I say shit, I mean good shit, not bad shit. Just so you don't misunderstand me. But then David and Chris weren't involved in BVS, even though David S. Goyer is credited for the scripts or story of BVS, but they rewrote his script or story or whatever. So basically, he was pushed aside. I always wonder what would have happened with a Man of Steel 2 or BVS or whatever if David Goyer and Nolan penned the sequel to Man of Steel. Because Batman vs. Superman is the sequel to Man of Steel. But was it the right sequel to Man of Steel? This is where it all started going wrong with Batman vs. Superman, because already they were reacting to the box office not being as favourably as they wanted it to be, not being as high as they wanted it to be. And so they made changes. Oh no, nobody wants to watch Superman. Let's inject Batman in there. Let's have them have this big WWF brawl. Who will win? And in the end, this is when the destabilization began. This is when they started making changes. We all know that Zack Snyder's a great visual director. That's why Man of Steel probably works a lot better than BVS. And I love BVS because Snyder literally just directs that movie. It's the visual narrative that defines Zack Snyder's work on Man of Steel and the written narrative that defines the role that Nolan and Goya had in that film. And if you like, it's the perfect marriage. People still had, problems with the movie, but the problems weren't as big for people as they were in Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. We already heard from Snyder that he never wanted to call the movie Batman vs Superman. That was a WB decision because they wanted to create this big hype and they wanted the general audience to come in. It was a cheap and lazy way of doing a Man of Steel sequel. So as I say, they were already making dumb decisions, and moving Goya and Nolan away was a big mistake. Now, I've already spoken about what's the point of having Goya and Nolan involved if you're not going to expand on the universe they set up in the Dark Knight trilogy. Now, I think that was down to Nolan. Nolan didn't want to use his own universe. But as I said the other day, if we can't use your universe, Chris, what the fuck is the point in you? And that's what I'm saying here. But let's have an expansive chat about Man of Steel as we're here today. Man of Steel, as we've discussed on this channel many a times, is a contemporary Superman movie. It's for a jaded audience because this generation is very, very jaded. Now, it's interesting if you look at Superman 78, Superman the movie, because people in the 70s were very, very jaded. We were coming to the end of Vietnam. We'd just seen a corrupt president leave office in Richard Nixon. And basically, there was a lot of anti-heroes on the big screen. So people were very jaded. But what happened was people were very jaded, very tired of the jadedness, very tired of the anti-heroes and the negativity in the world they lived in. So they wanted to look on the big screen at a better world. So Superman the movie was made. And, Star Wars 77, Star Wars A New Hope, was also made in the way. Escapist, classic escapist, wish fulfillment movie making, because people in their own lives had had enough of the grit and the realism. And there was a lot of grit and realism in their movies. And basically, what Superman the movie and Star Wars A New Hope does, it's that wish fulfillment, it's that fantasy. And I think it works for that very time. But you go to 2013, it's become very fashionable, thanks to Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, for realism in our, CBMs and grit. And I think it's a shame in a way because I like gritty, realistic superhero or CBMs, let's call them comic book movies. But ultimately, they shouldn't all be like that. There should be a place for realism in CBMs, but there should also be a place for movies like The First Avengers, which was a great movie. And I really enjoyed that movie. But then Marvel became a parody of itself, and that's what went wrong with Marvel as well. Not only is it the culture war that's been a problem for Disney and Marvel Studios, it's the fact that they got lost in their own mayhem. And as I've always said, empires are destroyed from within. So is it a problem that Man of Steel, pumps for realism and, this gritty take? Because I think realism and grit's all very well when you're telling a Batman story, kind of works for Batman, although I am looking forward to Brave and the Bold being a bit more cartoony and a little bit light-hearted, because I've read Batman comics before and I've seen Batman media like the Brave and the Bold, Batman the Brave and the Bold animated series, my favourite Batman animated series, by the way. It's a bit more lighter, jokey, but it can be dark in places as well. But it was Tim Burton who kind of set up this darker, brooding, kind of fantasy world for Batman. Then Nolan took it on another level, and Schumacher, as we've been talking about, really went to the camp. So you can go from one extreme to the other. I love Man of Steel. I think Man of Steel is a great modern day contemporary Superman movie, and I think there's a place for all styles. But there is this debate: should Superman be wish fulfillment, or should he be in a realistic world and a gritty world? It's an interesting debate to be had, if you like, but for me personally, I enjoy Man of Steel. I can understand why some people don't enjoy it. and don't like it, but you can't call it a bad movie. It's a really well written and well made movie, and I think it will stand the test of time. So happy 10th anniversary to Man of Steel. And it's a shame the Flash movie is going to celebrate that anniversary without our very own Man of Steel, Henry Cavill, who deserved a lot better. Now, finally, today, I want to talk about James Wan. I did, if you follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, I did promise I'd talk about James Wan's unhappiness of receiving notes, while making Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. He completed the movie, James Gunn came in, and James Gunn has given him notes for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And James recently spoke about this, saying he's lost kind of touch with all the changes that are being made in the DCEU, and he doesn't know where he is. I think this is a translation of him saying, stop giving me damn notes, I've had enough. Who knows how many times he's had to go back and reshoot this and reshoot that. And I think it's been a big problem for James and frustrating for James, because James is really a filmmaker, like Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder's a filmmaker. Andy Muschietti is a studio man. He made the Flash movie for the studio. He pointed the camera. He did as he was told. He was the good soldier. There's a difference between an auteur like Snyder and James Wan and someone like Andy Muschietti. Andy Muschietti is definitely not an auteur. He's a yes man, and that's why most probably he's going to get the brave and the bold gig. And then we can start talking about what type of Batman he's going to use in that film at a later date as well. Very exciting. Andy's a good, capable director. But James Wan is absolutely getting frustrated. And, the test screenings have been battered by the people who have viewed them as well, because there's lots of different versions and different test screenings of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. The one I saw was pretty decent, but I'm hearing they've made changes to the one that I saw, and they haven't been as decent. And this is where the negative reports about the movie is, because the more version you make, the more versions of these movies you cut together or rewrite or reshoot, and you kind of confuse it, because in the end you don't know what to do. You do this version and row A go oh, but row B go yay. Then you do another version and row B go yay, row A go nah. So then you don't know what to do, especially if you've got a split test audience as well. So it becomes a bit of a problem. This is what movie making and creativity and entertainment has lost. They listen to too many opinions. They take too much notice on what some random says on the internet and some offense they have or some complaint they have. The old-fashioned movie maker, director and writer and producer said, I'm going to make a movie about this. Shut up. I'm making this movie. I'm making Casualties of War. I'm making A Few Good Men. I don't care if no one hasn't asked for it. I'm making this film the best to my ability. I'm a talented writer-director. I'm going to put it out there. And if it's shit, you can sack me and I can never work in this town again. This is how they used to work. And this is why we got great movies like A Few Good Men, The Untouchables, JFK, etc., etc., etc. Because we had titans of industry. We had pioneers that were willing to take risks. Now we have risk-averse people in Hollywood. That's why there's so many test screenings. That's why there's so many rewrites and reshoots, and they're never sure what to do. Because when you listen to too many voices, the kind of sound gets mixed up and you don't know whether to turn left or right. And that's the problem. So what you've got to do, you've got to be confident as a creative, as I know myself, in your own convictions. I'm going to make a Superman film, like James Gunn's going to do. He's going to make a Superman film. I don't care what a test audience has to say. I'm making this film. This is my vision. I think this is the best thing to do for Superman and to introduce my brand new DC universe. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I don't care about the noise. The Cavill fans, the Snyder fans, this fan, that fan, the other fan, I don't care. I'm going to do this. In James Gunn, if I can speak as James Gunn. I'm a comic book fan. I've been reading comic books my whole life. I think I understand this medium, and I think James Gunn does understand that medium. and relatively puts it on the screen in his own unique way. And I think there's a lot of people who like what he does in CBMs as well. And I think that's what we're losing a lot of in entertainment. They're so unsure of themselves because they don't have the talent and the conviction in their own ability to say, I'm making this, like it or lump it, I'm a talented visionary, this is what I'm going to do. That's why you get great movies like Dune and The Batman and etc. Because those creatives are all tall and they have confidence in their own convictions. This has been a very different, unique episode of Sunday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. I hope you've enjoyed the background. So smash the like button if you love me, subscribe if you're new, please have your say, smash the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification bell, as I've already said. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen. I can't switch it off.